Welcome to the Emerging Podcast. I'm your host, Jamal Robinson. On today's show, we speak with Tran. Tina is the global leader for business development and gaming at TikTok. She previously had roles as a business development executive at Microsoft and has led enterprise virtual reality partnerships globally for Meta's Reality Labs, formerly Facebook Reality Labs. She is a graduate of the Presidential Leadership Scholars Program, a partnership between the George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Lyndon Johnson Presidential Libraries, and has had the honor of being one of the 43 immigrants and refugees that President George W. Bush painted in his 2022 book of portraits titled, Out of Many, One. She'll speak to us today about the importance of agency while also providing valuable career insights. I know you're going to enjoy the conversation with Tina, so let's get on to the show. Welcome to the show. We're honored to have you. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Tina Tran. I live in Southern California in Orange County, an hour south of LA, and I am currently leading global gaming business development at TikTok. I work out of our LA office. I've been at TikTok for a little over 6 months. And before that, I was at Microsoft, where I got to know Jamal. And there, I led business development for our consumer products. So I was there for 4 years. And I've been in tech my whole career. I started my career in management consulting. I loved it in New York. And then after that, have been working at software, consumer tech companies, and then moved to video games. I've been in video games for about 10 years at Oculus, at gaming studios, at software companies focused on game developers. So it's been a very fun, fulfilling career in an area that's constantly changing and really growing. So I'm really grateful for that.
For those that don't know much about TikTok, can you introduce the company and the platform?
Sure. So I think TikTok is for today what Facebook was for folks my age back in the day, maybe like 20 years ago. And then what Instagram was previously. But it's where people go to see what's happening when it comes to music, entertainment, sports, gaming, and lifestyle. You can learn about how to do something. So a lot of things that people once went to YouTube for instruction, they now go to TikTok for. They go to TikTok for inspiration. They go to TikTok, hopefully, to laugh and smile when they're looking at, dancing and lip syncing videos. But my role there is to grow gaming content. So we have 5 gaming verticals. We have 5 verticals, of which game is one. And just to make sure that there's a variety of content that's interesting for people that are on the platform. So what that could look like is anybody that's playing a game or cosplaying, or it could just be somebody that is telling you about what are the surprises that they've had when they've been playing a game, to show you what their game looks like when they're in there playing with their friends, to show you what it looks like when their mom comes in and yells at them to get off, the console. So it's a lot of it is culture. It's kind of like games X culture. And there's a big cross-section when it comes to games and entertainment, like film and TV. There's a big cross-section with games and music. A lot of music is being introduced in games. And so it's really interesting, kind of when we think about games, we think of it more broadly than just what you might think of when you think of Twitch or hardcore games. There's a lot of cozy games. So I think it's quite open to everyone.
For those interested in a business development role focused on gaming, can you explain the skills that are needed? I'm assuming it's playing video games all day long.
It's helpful. Yeah, it's helpful to understand the different genres of games. It's helpful to play video games because it just is more, it helps you do your job better, right? Anybody that is like excited about a vertical that works in the vertical is going to be more motivated and more knowledgeable. So that's helpful. But it's also, my role is, I don't have to play video games to be successful. It's good to know and to play at least some. I don't have to spend 10 hours a week playing. It's more important to kind of know what's happening in the industry that is important to developers. It's also important to understand how is games a part of the greater culture, and what does that look like on TikTok, and who should we be working with to grow quality gaming content, so that if you're on TikTok it's stuff that you're interested in that you want to see more of. It's maybe somewhat instructional. It's definitely entertaining. And then identifying what are the partners that would bring that type of really fun content to the platform. So, not an obvious one might be a cozy game like Hello Kitty Island Adventure, where you get to play with Hello Kitty. So it's not like when you think of gamer, you might not be thinking of Hello Kitty. Might be thinking of Final Fantasy or Minecraft or, something slightly more intense, like Fortnite perhaps. But I like the idea that TikTok is kind of available and there for you no matter what type of gamer you are, whether you're a casual gamer, a mobile gamer, or a PC gamer, or more hardcore. So I think it's really about providing variety and being inclusive in that way.
Sounds like bringing partners' content to TikTok platform is important for your role. Can you explain the importance of partnerships in this role and other ones you've had across the industry?
I think overall, if I were to take a step back and not be so specific to TikTok, I think it's understanding what is the business value of TikTok to game publishers, right? Like, why would they want to be on TikTok? And then what is our business value of having them on our platform, right? So when I talk to a partner, I try to be very clear about if we were to do this together, these are the ways that we think you would be able to win, right? This is the value that you would get from it. And then this is the value that we get from it. So everybody's really clear about who's getting what and why it's important to both parties. And that way it's more of an equal exchange. But to get to that, I think any person that's doing business in sales, in BD, just in servicing, anybody that wants to work better with others, I always like to start with a lot of questions what's important to you right now? What are your top goals? What are your OKRs? What does success look like to you? What are you worried about? What keeps you up, right? And then once I have a sense of that, then I can identify what part of us working together will help you achieve your goals or, help you achieve your OKRs, whatever that might be, as opposed to just, I come with, I'd say, a hypothesis where we can help each other, but I like to really ask the question to make sure that my hypothesis is actually valid. And then when I tell them what we can do together, I can speak directly to how we can help them achieve their specific goals, as opposed to it being just very broad. So for me, I think a successful business person really understands what I'm trying to achieve and also what other people are trying to achieve so that we can help each other.
Sounds like being inquisitive and empathetic to partners' needs are necessary skills for this job. Can you explain, in addition to the background you gave in the intro, any other skills that were needed for you to get to this role today?
Right. So I went to school at UCLA and I studied communications, which is not a specific business major. And I studied what I liked to study. I thought communications was interesting. So I wasn't focused on necessarily the end goal. And I was lucky that in management consulting, they just want smart people who have above average GPAs, who they know or think are intelligent and hardworking. So for me, it was luckily I got to study what I wanted. And management consulting was really good grounding for me because they taught me how to present to a client, how to do analysis, how to work on a team, right? And then also with management consulting, the work that I was doing, I was on a project every 3 months. So I got to learn a ton because I wasn't always working on one thing. I was working on lots of different problems with different types of clients. So it's almost like being at university where you have a quarter system and you're learning something for 3 months and then you're learning something else for 3 months. So I loved that system. But I knew in the back of my head, that my personal assets, that I really enjoy talking to people, that I enjoy understanding problems and breaking them down and creating mutual value. I just somehow knew that business development would be the role that I would be good at, that I would enjoy. And so that's how I figured that I would do business development. And then at the time, there was a lot popping off with Internet 1.0. And I wanted to be a part of that. So I really focused. I moved from New York to San Francisco because I wanted to be where the action was. And I lived there until things kind of died with 1.0 and it blew up. And then I moved to Europe because my other dream was to be an international businesswoman. And I wanted to work and have international roles. So I got this really incredible role in Germany. And I got to work and live in Germany and London for 3 years. So that was like amazing. So I think part of it is like knowing what you're intrinsically good at and identifying what that is. And then just kind of going for it, right? Like I just went for it. I knew business development was what I wanted to do. My career background was broad. Management consulting is quite broad. But I pitched myself and I got BD roles. And then I also had no international experience. So I really had to like, again, go pitch myself and get an international role. And then all of a sudden I'm set up to do more international business development. So yeah, I think it's about knowing like who you are, what you're good at, and then having the agency and the confidence to like go get it, and having to convince a lot of people along the way. But really kind of like just following your own heart, and then just being thoughtful about what that looks like. I had to get up every morning. I had a job, and I would get up early and I would go and look online to see what jobs were international that I could apply to. And then I would apply to jobs like every day, but like thoughtfully. I would send my resume in, but I would like work on my resume so it'd be a little bit different for the role I was applying for. And I'd send like a thoughtful cover letter that was specific to the role. So I think there's just a lot of, it's not just like I have a plan. It's not just having an idea, but it's having an execution plan and being really thoughtful about not letting people kind of tell you can't do it. Because a lot of people will say like, who's going to hire you? Or like, what are you doing? But I think it's just kind of putting your best foot forward. I mean, I was applying for roles that I had like, you see that the qualifications, there's like 10 bullet points. I had like one bullet point and I was like, I will apply because I know that I can do that. And so I actually applied for a role that I wasn't a really good fit for, but that recruiter got back to me and he's like, you're not a fit for this role, but there's this other role I think you'd be really great for. And that's how I got my job in Germany. It was because I like sent a guy a note that I probably shouldn't have for a role that I wasn't necessarily qualified for. But I think at the end of the day, it's about getting yourself out there. So whether it's through recruiters or through your friend base or your network, it's letting people know, hey, I want this, like I'm looking for an international role and this is what I want to do. And then people hear about that and then they can actually help you. So part of it is kind of getting the word on the street.
Thanks. On your career trajectory, I pulled out the importance of having a network and also going after what you want. Would you say that that's a fair assessment? I'm asking because often I see people that go after roles that are only incrementally different from their current role, and then after 3 to 6 months, they're bored.
And you don't want it because you've already like know how to do it. So like you want to do something that's a bit of a stretch. I think what I tell the people I coach is it's not your job to weed yourself out. That is somebody else's job. It's your job to like get in the game, right? So like don't be your worst, like your harshest critic, right? It's about saying, hey, I think I can do this. And then also knowing what your superpower is. Like just because you don't fit the same profile as everybody else is actually a good thing. Like they might get a lot of people that have this experience, but you uniquely have this other experience that actually might make you more unique and more valuable to the company. So just kind of like think about things in a non-linear way, in your own unique way. And I know like for myself that I show up better in person. And so I always try to like get in front of the person if somebody suggests a call. And if I can be in the area, I'll just be like, I'm going to be in the area. You only still need to hang out with me for 30 minutes, but let me come by, So it's just like going that extra mile to set yourself up for success, whatever that looks like. If you know you're not good in person, maybe you don't come in person. I don't know what to tell you. But it's just, like you have to try to work your strengths and know what your strengths are and put them out,
Often successful people like yourself have social circles that help to accelerate their growth. Can you speak to that? Do you have a social circle, be it friends, family, or professionals, that have helped accelerate your growth along the way?
I was really lucky. My parents were not very directive, but I had friends around me who were really ambitious and they were going for it and they were seeing results. And so I was just like, well, if it's working for them, perhaps it'll work for me. And so that's where it becomes really important that you surround yourself with people who you admire, who you respect, and who are doing things that you want to do. And so I was lucky to be with somebody like that. And that was really helpful for me because then I knew what was capable, and also surrounding myself with people who believed in me. Like my friends were just like, of course, you could do it. Like, why wouldn't you be able to do it? So it's part of it is comes from inside, but part of it also comes from your circle, who you spend time with, how they're spending time. Like if you're hanging out with people who like stay out late, are you really going to get up early and kind of be on the horn doing the things that you need to do? You know, so it's just kind of who motivates you, who inspires you. Do you have, and not everybody in your circle needs to do that. You know, we have different people that serve different things for us, right? You have your friends that are super fun, friends that like to eat, you know, friends that are ambitious. And so it's just like, how does that fit into your world? And then also asking friends for help. You know, I have a lot of friends when it comes to leaving a company, when it comes to negotiating a package, when it comes to like maybe making a pivot in their career, they'll often call me because they know that these are things I like am passionate about, that I have experience in. And it's nice to talk to somebody that with a different perspective that will help. So they don't have to be necessarily like a close friend. They can just also be somebody you admire, that you're close enough that, you know, you can reach out.
What do you think the importance is of having a mentor? And in your career, have you leveraged mentors to help you?
I didn't have a mentor. I just had someone around me that was doing it and making it happen. And so I just kind of followed he maybe mentored me for like a year or two, but like I haven't really had a mentor in my career. You know, this was like an early mentor in college that I had. It was another college student. So it wasn't like a real mentor, you know, but he was like directed as hell, you know, and ambitious as hell. So it's like, they don't have to be somebody that's done it. They can just be somebody that, you know, will get it done because their results are good and they are laser focused, and they, you know, they're animals, right? They're getting what they need done. So, I like to use, I think it's hard to have mentors these days because I don't think there are people necessarily around trying to fill that role. Everybody's got their own thing going on. They've got their own families. There's a lot of people doing their thing. So it's more like friends who inspire you from all aspects of life. They might be 10 years older than you. They might be 20 years older than you. I love intergenerational friendships and being able to ask them questions. And yes, if you can get a mentorship from them, great. But sometimes it's a friendship where you can ask good questions and they'll kind of mentor you on the sly, you know, like just give you bits here and there.
Tina, you have a magnetic personality and a lot of positive energy. I'm assuming that the universe is giving you everything you wanted. Is that true, or have you had to deal with adversity along the way? And if so, how have you dealt with that?
Oh, yeah. It has not been smooth sailing. I think people look at my career and they think it has because I've been able to work at some really cool companies. You know, layoffs are a real thing, right? Like they're happening today. They happened yesterday. They happened the day before yesterday. Like we're going through a period right now where there's a lot more of that. And I've, you know, been laid off a handful of times in my career, and that's hard. Like, and it's usually at a time when the economy is down and everybody's getting laid off and it's really hard to find a job, right? It's like, so, it has not been linear. And I think it actually, sometimes it serves you well, right? Like at the time, it doesn't feel like it, but just again, kind of knowing who you are, knowing what you have to offer, and then having built really good relationships is super important because you don't know when you're going to need people in your corner or people just show up for you, right? So I think the last time I got laid off, I had like my team sent me flowers. They were like crushed. Like I came home and there were flowers like at my doorstep the same day. It was kind of amazing. And so I felt it was like a weird double-edged sword. Like on the one hand, I was sad, but on the other hand, so many people came out of the woodworks to tell me how much they loved working with me, what they gained from being like, you know, having spent time with me. Like it made my heart, it was almost like you died and you got to go to your own funeral and you hear all the nice things. And so it's not linear, but I think it's really important how you present yourself to people you work with, how you work with others, that you are not only effective, but that people enjoy being around you and feel like you're a positive force, right? Whether it's a positive force on the culture, whether it's a positive force on them individually, that's really important. I mean, I landed at TikTok because there's a gal that worked on my team at Microsoft, and she left like a year and a half ago to go to, or maybe 2 years ago now, to go to TikTok. And I had been managing her for like a year, so we, you know, not super long, but we had a great relationship, and I stayed in touch with her afterwards. Not for any other reason that I adored her and I thought she was amazing. And she really liked TikTok, so she like reached out to me and was like, "I think you'd love it here. Like, do you want to come work here?" And I work at TikTok because of her. Like she just was like, and she also was a rock star. So when she told her bosses that they should hire me, They were like, okay, coming from a rock star, we'll let, like, okay, we will. And having managed her, she could also speak to the fact that she thought I was a great manager from having worked with me. So it's important that you're nice to everybody, that you treat everybody well. I mean, I didn't treat her well because I thought she would help me in the future. I treated her well because that's what you do, and usually it's like people higher up that will take you to a company, that will bring you with them. And it wasn't, right? Like, it's so I think that there are ways that it's really important that you build your career based on your reputation, how you treat others, how effective you are. I ended up at Microsoft because my good friend, who I did a deal with like 10 years ago, we stayed in touch after doing a business deal together. We were on opposing sides. And every time I see her, I'd be in her ear. I'd be like, I would love to work with you, because I knew I would learn so much from her, and she's an absolute powerhouse. And so when the role opened up at Microsoft, because her company got acquired by Microsoft, she was like, she called me, and I was, because I've been in her ear. So she remembered to think of me. And because, we worked like on a deal together. So she has a sense of what I'm capable of and what I would be like to work with. So I really think it's kind of putting what you want out there, surrounding yourself with good people, and then knowing that pivots are going to come in your career, and it'll be a bit of a roller coaster with ups and downs. And there's some things that are in your control, like how you treat others and how helpful you are and how effective you are at what you do. And there are other things that are out of your hands, like what's happening macroeconomics wise, right? What's happening in the economy. And so it's just, it's kind of being good to others and being like authentic.
Some people say bring your whole self to work. Other people create a non-authentic version of themselves that is safe for the workplace. How do you coach people on this topic?
It's hard to say. I'm like very much not an introvert, right? So there are folks who are introverts, and I think it's like about finding your people. You don't have to be like this with everybody, but it's taking the time to find the people that you enjoy spending time with, or who you want to get to know better, and making that known. Like, people don't get enough, we have these like love languages where it's like verbal affirmations and physical touch and things like that. I love hugging people. Not everybody's down for a hug. But I think there's an appreciation where sometimes I often say things in my head. I'll think something like, I really appreciate the way this person did that. And now, instead of like keeping it in my head, I try to like verbalize it or share it in the written form. And so I think it's just small things that if you feel an appreciation for somebody or someone, you feel kind of a connection with them, that you kind of need to take the initiative to reach out. And, whether that's like, right, and Google had their layoffs last week, and I reached out to one of the folks there and was like, hey, how you doing? And it's been like years, since I've been in touch with them. I can't remember the last time we've been in touch. But it's showing care for people when they're down. And it's like, you don't have to have any reason other than, hey, you just popped up in my head and just wanted to check in with you. So it's you can do that, like it doesn't, but you also have to, it has to be, I think, a concerted effort, because you're not just going to do that by accident, right? You actually have to do the follow-throughs, and show people that you care and show people that you're there. And so and also, if you feel like you can't be authentic at work, then you have to reevaluate where you work, because it might not be the place necessarily. It might just not be a good fit with you. Just like, if you're in a personal relationship with somebody, it might not be the fact that they suck or you suck. It's just y'all are not good together. So it could be you're not a good fit with the company if you don't feel like you can be your authentic self there. I think that would be really hard. There's also something to be said about understanding the culture and like understanding what the values are at certain places. And adapting to them to some extent. Doesn't mean you're authentic. It just means you're realistic and you're smart and you're thinking. You have to be adaptable. So I think there's quite a lot to unpack in that question.
I really love how positive you are, even when you're not saying anything. And I've seen as we work together where people gravitate towards you because of this. I'm assuming it's because you're also a very gracious and humble person. And I'm curious if you have any advice for me as I'm actively working on gratitude, or the others listening.
Sure. So a lot of people are not aware that I wasn't born in the U.S. I think people hear and see me and they just assume I was born here. So I was born in Vietnam, and I came over when I was like 4, or maybe 5. But I came as a refugee. So like my first experience in life is like my first memory in life is being on a boat, like going from Vietnam to like escape and being handed over to a pirate at sea. So it makes for a very unique first experience. It's pretty intense. And my first kind of childhood memories is, I have no childhood memories of Vietnam. My first childhood memories are being in a refugee camp in Malaysia and being very hungry a lot because, like, you know, as you know, I like to eat and not feeling safe, and just like, it's a scary place to be when you're a kid, when you're 4. And I was there with my mom and my brother, and we were lucky enough to, you know, we lived there for a year while our papers were being processed to come to the U.S. And we were lucky enough to be able to come to the U.S. and have family that was, my mom's sisters and brothers were in California, in Southern California. So we were sponsored, and we lived in Orange County and Whittier, LA County and Orange County. And so that, I think that childhood and upbringing was different, because I was definitely different, but I didn't feel indifferent at school. I felt like everybody else. Luckily, I think it was that age where I wasn't incredibly self-aware. And so they just dropped me in kindergarten. I learned English, and I was like everybody else as far as I was concerned, even though I, you know, looked different, we were poor, had no money. But I was really interested in academics. I did really well in school. I loved playing on the playground. So like, if you can play and hang on the playground and, you know, do reading and math well, then I think as a kid, you're good. But I also think it set me up with this idea that I'm here and I'm not really I don't think the expectations are high of what I can achieve necessarily, but I have been able to achieve a lot even when I was like a kid. And so I just kept wanting to do more. And so I just had this, I think, natural self-confidence that continues on through life. And I'm very appreciative of being here because I, you know, wasn't slotted to be here, right? And I'm very appreciative of all the experiences I've had because I know that I'm really lucky. So I think appreciating my experiences, not taking things for granted is really helpful. And then just having this mindset that like, I'm maybe not even supposed to be here in the first place. So like everything's all upside. So like, why not try? And so I know a lot of other people feel differently. Like they came here and they maybe don't feel like they belong, but I've always felt like I belonged. And I think that's important to be in a setting, to be in a mind space where you feel like you belong. And if somebody tells you differently, to not believe them. And then, you know, go one step further, to do further than not believe them, but, you know, tell them where to go. Because you gotta let people know, like, they can't talk to you like that. Like that's, you know, so I think it's important to stand up for yourself. And so that comes out for me when it comes to my career is like, I definitely stand up for myself in my career. I'm not like quiet or shy about what I want to do and what I'd like to do and what I can do. And I think it's really important to be proactive and bring that confidence to your life, whether it's your personal life or your work life. Because like I'm not sitting around waiting for people to decide what I'm capable of doing or what they're going to give me. You know, like I think it's my job to figure out what I want and to go after it.
I love the idea of reframing narratives to ones that serve you better. Things aren't inherently bad or good, but just take the narrative that best serves you and helps you maintain the best mental and emotional states. Is there any other advice you'd like to give people when they're at work or even in their personal life when things get tough?
I think you have to have a practice, right? So my gratitude practice is like every evening. It doesn't happen every evening, but I try to sit down and write down or think in my head, what are the 3 things? It's twofold. What are the 3 things I appreciate about myself? Because like often when we do gratitude, we think about others, how we're grateful for others. And I think it's important to acknowledge like what we bring to the table. I didn't learn this by myself. I did this thing called the Hoffman Process. It was like a week-long experience in Marin where you go and you live there for a week in a dorm and you learn about yourself and how to be a better human and how to process your stuff. And part of it was like every day checking in, what do I appreciate about myself? So it might be something like, I appreciate that I am trying my best to be a good mother. I appreciate that I'm a good friend. I appreciate that I take good care of myself and I work out, 5 days a week or whatever. I do yoga every day. I appreciate that I found something that I love. And then 3 things that you're grateful for. So it could be I'm grateful for my incredible friends, I'm grateful for my parents, it could be I'm grateful for this delicious meal I had, this fun movie or experience I had with somebody. So it's just kind of taking note. And so I often found that when something bad happens to me, I always find the silver lining, because then I'm not focused on what I lost. I'm focused on like what there is to gain from it. And so I think it's really, but you have to be really thoughtful about it. It doesn't just come like now it comes because it's like something that I'm used to doing. Like it's something bad happens, I really right away think about, okay, these are the good things. So being able to train your mind a little bit to be focused on what is the good. Because some people, good things happen to them, and like, or some people, you meet the people that they never stop complaining. You're just like, oh my God. And so like, you can't, and so for me, it's like, of course I complain, like I'm human, I complain, but, isn't it nice to be around people who are not complaining all the time, but are kind of like, well, this thing happened, it kind of sucked, but like, this is what I learned from it. And I think at the end of the day, like, these are the good things that can come from it. Like, doesn't that feel more empowering than just being like, this stinks? So I think it's really empowering to think about. I mean, so for example, I have a friend, this is a very real example, who was at Google and is at Google. And she said that the layoffs were really demoralizing, which I totally understand. But then I kind of pushed her and I said, well, maybe you can think of it as like, you still have a job. That's great. Rather than being like, it's so demoralizing. And then take that opportunity to go work in an environment where you feel more energetic, where you feel more appreciated, where you like your boss, like all the things that you're not loving, like you've been given more time to go do and find the thing that you want to do. So like, use this as a moment to take action, because you still have your job. So you have time. Instead of being like, boo, this is so demoralizing. I get it. But like, just spend a little bit of time processing that and then like go forth and slay. We all get energy from different things. And I get energy from being active and being outside, being in the sun, playing, doing yoga. So that's actually a place that makes me better at work, is if I am not like sluggish. So I think you'd have to think about like, where are you getting your energy from? Like, are you getting your energy from alcohol? Are you getting your energy from like, are you getting your energy from healthy places or unhealthy places, right? Like, what is happening there? So for me, I've chosen healthy outlets. And so it's to identify what are your outlets healthy? And then also I love to eat, but it doesn't mean I need to eat like crazy quantities, right? It means like I enjoy a good meal. And so it's, everything is kind of like, how do you moderate the things, and do things in moderation? And do you have like just healthy habits? Do you have healthy people around you who have healthy habits? Are they going to bring you down? Like what is like? So I think it is something that you have to be a little bit more self-reflective about, and hopefully build in. We all know what good habits look like, and I think what bad habits don't look like. So build in the good habits. I have a studio that I love going to, so it's really easy for me to go. It's right by my son's school. So I will drop off my son and then go do an hour of yoga, and then I'll start my work day. So it's like, make it really easy to fit those good, healthy habits into your day by finding a place you love, by finding a community you enjoy, by finding something that's convenient. I don't like workouts where you have to like do 5 things before you can do it. Like, running is great. You put on a pair of shoes, you go outside the house and you run, or you walk, you're done. So it's like, what is the barrier to entry you have to also those healthy habits?
Okay. So you answered another question I have. I was wondering how you're able to eat so much, but then still maintain the model figure. But now I see it's working out 5 days a week. So great advice. I'm going to have to start stepping it up in the gym myself. As a mother, I'm curious if you have any advice for our listeners who also want to maintain a good relationship with their family, but still achieve success at work and are struggling to find balance with work and professional life.
I think sometimes when we have more on our plates, we're better at getting things done because we know what limited amount of time we have, right? So it's really about like, there's no reason why you can't be successful. I mean, Sheryl Sandberg is a mom. A lot of the most successful women out there are mothers. And so that it's helpful to have a supportive partner, right? Or parents or nanny that can help. So it's like, there's some organizing one has to do in their lives. But it's also just knowing what your priorities are and setting people's expectations. Like, people know I'll work at night if I need to, but between the hours of like 6 and 8, I want to be with my kids. So I'll be on later. I'll be on at like 9 or 10 when he's in bed. Not regularly, because I like my sleep too. So, but it's just a matter of like prioritizing and setting expectations with people you work with so that they understand. And then, figuring out kind of what works best for you, and being supportive of other people as well, right? Whether they're mothers or fathers, and having an environment where you don't hide the fact that you're a mom, that you can celebrate it, and people can be like, oh, she's a mom and she still slays. I think some people feel like they have to hide that thing, and it's just like, it's okay. We're capable of doing both, and also having, like I said, it's really important to have a supportive partner that can fill in, so you don't feel like you always need to be on point driving the bus.
Recapping what you said, sounds like you have strong boundaries and you don't sacrifice those for work or important deadlines.
Well, they're going to get the best out of you if you're not like sleep deprived, and if you're healthy, right? And if you have a good relationship, like I think the work will get the best of you if you actually set better boundaries for yourself.
Unfortunately, we're in a time now where layoffs are dominating the headlines. Do you have any advice for those people who have recently been laid off, who are fearing being laid off, or who are actively looking for jobs at this time?
It's really about your network. Like, people like you. Will they answer your call? Will they have lunch with you? Why not? So it's like really thinking about like, what is it you bring to the table? What is it that's unique and interesting about you? Like, what do people want to be around you? I think that's important, right? So a lot of it isn't necessarily it's a resource. It's like, how are you showing up in the world, and how are you delighting people when you're around them? Like, what are they getting from you, right? So I think that's a really important thing. There is a woman who I have known for 20 years, and I find her incredibly motivating and inspiring. Her name is Bronwyn Saglimbeni, and she has this incredible podcast called 20 Minutes with Bronwyn. I've been on the podcast. She has come and spoken at Microsoft several times. She hits it out of the park. She did it. She would do it. I would organize it for the women's group, the women's BD group at Microsoft. So we'd have loads of people, and then men found it really interesting and they wanted to join. So then we opened it up to everybody. So it was like all of BD on these calls with Bronwyn, and she's a communication coach. So she talks to you about how to show up empowered, what that looks like, how to deal with gaslight, all these things. She has a really incredible podcast where she does that. But also, if you have a program at your office where you can invite in powerful speakers who will help you and your colleagues, then I would highly recommend having her, and she's incredible. But just like, who are the people that bring the energy? So she's like somebody that brings the energy. So I knew that I would want her to continue to be in my life and to support her work, and to support her message. Like, her message is incredible. The more I send her links to people all the time, she has this great giving 2020 the exit interview it deserves, because 2020 was that crazy COVID year, the first year. And I use it now for at the end of every year. I listen to that podcast and think about what's my exit interview look like for just the year I just had. And her stuff is really powerful, thoughtful, joyful, like all the positive things. So I really like her work. But I think I would press upon folks, like, as you think about your career, what are you leaving with people? When I left Microsoft, I took the opportunity to send a note to a group of individuals who I worked with. Jamal, you were on that note, I think. And I basically said, like, I've really loved my time here, and I've really loved working with you and getting to know you. And here are like my top 3 memories or things from having been at Microsoft. Here are my takeaways. Like, own your message. Like, when you leave, don't just leave quietly. Let people know what they meant to you. Let people know what you're doing next. If you don't know what you're doing next, just let people know that you appreciated working with them. So like, own your message where you can, and that's really important.
If the viewers and listeners have a program to bring in powerful speakers, also recommend bringing in the amazing Tina Tran into work. I'm sure the groups will benefit. Tina, thank you so much for your time and energy today. You've already given so much valuable advice, but I'd like to ask you if there's any last parting words of wisdom you'd like to leave with the listeners and viewers today.
I think what I'd like people to think about is how are you contributing to either your workplace? How are you contributing to your people? Like, are you doing the minimum work, or are you inspiring others? Are you motivating others? Like, how can we do things to all help each other a little bit more, and to be a better force, a better coworker, a better partner, any of those things. It's the beginning of the year, so people can take the time to be a bit more self-reflective about what worked and didn't work the year before and how we want to show up differently this year. I think that's great. And like, how do we practice that intentionality with maybe one or two people and be like, hey, I'm working on this. Like, maybe we can work on this together. And so, finding a sense of having that agency, I think. Something that I really want people to think about. If you had a word of the year, what would that word of the year be? So like, what are you going to challenge yourself with this year? So my word of the year is agency, but it's also been my word of the year for like a decade or more. But like, what is that for you? What does that look like for you? Like, what are the mantras in your life? So my word of the year is agency. One of my mantras is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? So I used to have this postcard on my fridge, and it said, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I would walk by it, and that shit would haunt me because it was like yelling at me because I knew what I was not doing. I knew the thing that I wasn't doing. And that's good. It's nice to kind of basically, I guess it's people that are keeping you responsible. So it was like that sign on my fridge was keeping me responsible for what I should be doing that I maybe wasn't doing because of fear. So I think those are the two things that I think people think about. What is your word of the year? What is the mantra you want to kind of live by? How do you live that?
Tina, as always, it was great to see you and hear from you again. I'm also so glad to hear that your personal and professional life has continued to prosper. And I want to thank you for your time coming on the podcast today. And I can't wait until we're able to speak like this again.
I'm just glad we get to hang out a little bit. So this is great. We'll have to do it more and in person.
And that wraps our show for today. I want to thank you for listening to the Emerging Podcast with your host, Jamal Robinson, and ask that you like and subscribe to the podcast across your favorite platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, Google Podcast, and Amazon Music. It's free for you and significantly helps out the show. You can also check out our newsletter on LinkedIn. I hope this show has added some value in your life, and until next time, peace.